I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside. It's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off-road. The guy managed the group. He was like, what are you doing in this beautiful car? I'm like, I'm going off-road. He's like, are you sure? Because you can use one of ours. And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, no, we're going to do this. And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability, as well as its robust interior, are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show on the Stansberry Radio Network.
So yeah, Jim Norton started, I guess we were all 10, we were in 4th grade. And I guess, like, you know, the nervous new kid, you've been the new kid in school. And, you know, you're the new kid, everybody's either going to, like, make fun of him or he's got to react real quickly. Yeah. And so he started just being, like, hilarious. And, like, from day one, we said, you're going to be a comedian. Yeah, and then it was really surprising to me, he's talking on the podcast how he started bombing when he first started being a stand-up. Yeah. And I was like, Jim, I don't understand. Like, you were, like, the guy. Like, you were 80 times funnier than anyone else in school. How could you bomb? And he made the interesting point that he was just going up there and telling jokes. Right. And that you really have to know the audience. You really have to...
But he was saying also that your relationships you have with people, they know you. So it's like, it's already informed.
Well, what do you mean?
There's a relationship you have with people.
Right.
So they get it. So, like, when you go up in front of an audience, they don't know you.
Right,
so
right.
You have to, like, get them. You have to connect with them in order for them to get the joke. And some people can connect faster.
Yeah, and so he had to learn, in order to be a good stand-up, he had to learn more than being funny, because he was already funny. He had to learn how to connect with the audience, which maybe he wasn't used to because he was always, like, kind of the shy kid. He had, like, a suicide attempt. He just always was, like, off a little bit. But I heard in one of your interviews, and by the way, we're totally recording right now.
Oh,
so yeah, we cold started.
Casual.
So, yeah, didn't even let you know.
Oh, I love it.
So Marina Franklin, I'll describe you more in a second, but I wanna learn more, because you said in one of your interviews recently how you were always really good at, I forget the phrase you used, not controlling the room, but, like, you would win over the room right away. Like, that was your first skill from, like, you were like a baby doing that. And, like, how do you do that? And then I'm going to totally describe who you are. By the way, we finished your Wikipedia. You have a Wikipedia page now.
You guys are
so
awesome.
My assistant got your Wikipedia page up yesterday. Yes, well, here we are.
More.
There we are.
I don't know if I know how I think it's just you either have that or you don't. And I know that sounds kind of cruel because people want to know how can you capture a room. but not everyone could be the preacher, right? It's like sort of like the Peter, leading the people off. It's like you either have that talent where you could capture a room of people or you don't. And I don't really know. I think it started in high school where I had the teacher. There was this woman in homeroom. Her name was Miss Bird.
Great name.
I know, right?
You tore that name apart, right? You did not let her get away with that name.
She looked like
Of course.
a bird.
What else is she going to look like? A dinosaur?
And she was, it was homeroom. You know, like homeroom where he's like, I don't know, that period where
it's like the nothing
you just
period.
sit there and you're like doing nothing. And so she sort of took me on. She saw I was like troubled. And she
Why were you troubled?
Well, I had, my parents were at the time separated. They had been separated, but it was like this sort of like visitation rights was going on. And so it was like staying with my father on the weekend was questionable, whether I could or whether I couldn't. I was fighting with my mother a lot. I was a teenager. And so I wrote a lot of poetry, a lot of angry poetry. I was going to say a lot of angry porn. That almost came out of my mouth. But a lot of
It actually ended up, by the way, coming out of your mouth. But we'll gloss over that.
But so I wrote a lot of angry poetry, and I would write it in homeroom when we were doing nothing, and she noticed it. And she was like, you should do something with this. And I was like, she's like, this is really good stuff. And she's like, you know what? They're going to have the graduation speech. Why don't you prepare the speech for graduation, and I'll help you audition. I'll tell everyone that you're going to do it. Let's just get it together. So she like, and it was weird because like everyone made fun of Miss Bird. So it was like, when you're at that age, you're like, I don't want to be cool with her because no one else likes her. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, well, she's paying attention to me. So I kind of secretly like would meet up with her.
Like at night,
but then
like
I would
in
tell
a
my
bar.
friends, I was like, yeah, she's weird. And like she smoked. She had this horrible smoking breath. And it's like, yeah, you talk about her. But at the same time, it was like, this woman's helping me. So she would really get on me about how to speak, how to like enunciate the words, how to have passion behind what I was saying. And eventually, like I put this like graduation speech together. I think the first line was something like, goodbye, past. Hello, future.
Very angry.
Yeah, that was my graduation speech. So, and they loved it. And then I performed it, and my mom was there, my father was there, and my stepdad was there. And I remember my dad looking at me and going, wow, like, how did you, like, that was really, like, seeing your father being amazed by you was like that first sort of beat or moment for me where I was like, I think I have something here. Because, like, I had the room.
So that's interesting. So more even than the words you said was kind of the kind of magnetism across the room that he noticed, that everybody noticed. And so what do you I'm not so sure I believe that it can't be learned, because you said not everyone can be a preacher, but it tends to be that preachers' children become good preachers because they're learning so much from their father or whatever.
I know a preacher's child that was horrible.
Really? Okay, so maybe it doesn't get...
It was really bad.
So I'm wondering what... Because every guy who does public speaking needs to somehow relate to the audience, and I find so few do. Like, everybody has their PowerPoint, and they want to have flashy images on their PowerPoint. They want people to look away from them at their PowerPoint. They forget that they need to connect to the audience. So what would be, like, the one or two things you think you do have that can be taught? Like, and you said this teacher went over with you every word, every...
Yeah, she taught me something I didn't know, which was how to take these words and put emotion behind it. So you can actually teach that, but not everyone has, let's say, the voice to capture a room. You can have a really bad voice that's just annoying, and maybe a room full of people don't want to hear that voice. It's just not a popular voice.
That's sad.
Not going to happen for you.
I hope I have to give a lot of talks. I hope I don't have that problem. Maybe I do, because Nathan here will know, or our last audio engineer, on my last book, the very last review is, I was really turned off by the narrator's voice, but then we caught on. They still liked the book, and it was Claudia and me both doing the book. So hopefully it was her voice. Like, she has a really weird voice, but
she has an accent.
Yeah, Argentina.
It's nice.
Yeah, she's got the whole thing going on.
Venezuela.
Yeah, that was very good how she did that,
Venezuela?
right? You're winning over the room out there. So
she's also a Marina.
Yeah, it's too. That's her middle name. The place where you dock boats. So what then got you started? Well, first of all, let me introduce you. So Marina Franklin, one of my favorite comedians, and I'll tell you how I first heard you. I was driving my daughter around, and my daughter was 12 years old, and we always listen to the Comedy Central or Sirius XM channel in the car. By the way, I don't have a driver's license, so don't tell anybody that I was driving my 12-year-old around.
That's very typical of a New Yorker.
Yeah. We live a little outside of New York, but and my license was taken away. It's a whole story. But you came on, and you're doing your act, and both my 12-year-old and I were laughing. And so it's one of those first moments where it's like we were both doing something together. You know how, like, with like a 12-year-old, you kind of like, you would never willingly be friends with a 12-year-old, but like, so now here's something where we were both bonding on something at the same time. Was your jokes. Like, we were both laughing at the same things.
Oh, that makes me feel good. I brought father and daughter together.
Yes.
In laughter.
Exactly. So you controlled our car.
Family laughter. I like that.
So you're a stand-up comedian, you tour all over, but also I've seen you now on Inside Amy Schumer, one of my favorite TV shows. You've opened, I didn't even know this until yesterday, actually, but you open regularly for Jim Norton, who's been on the podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, I grew up with him, so I know him. We lost touch for, only 30 years, but then he came on my podcast. And then, are you going to be on his show, Vice?
Yeah, I did 2 episodes, but I'm not sure where it's placed or if that part will air at all.
And are you going to do, you do all sorts of other stuff. Tell us what other stuff you do.
I was recently in Amy's movie.
Woman Who Kill.
Well, Women Who Kills, which is streaming on Netflix.
We've watched it.
And that was with Amy, Rachel Feinstein, and Nikki Glazer, and then me.
So 3 Jews and you.
But actually, I grew up in Highland Park, Chicago.
So sort of like black and white.
My great-grandfather was Jewish, but I guess that does not make me Jewish. But
we can make you an honorary Jew.
Yeah. And my father, actually, the reason I lived in Highland Park was that he wanted me to go to school with, like, Jewish kids. He believed that was the best education. That was my father. So
it was Jewish kids and a black girl. And
now on a show with Jewish women, yes.
Yes, excellent.
It somehow works its way in. It's
I guess
was wired to do it.
The thing is, if you grew up with, it's always interesting what's nature and nurture. Like, if you're growing up, let's say, with all white people or with all black people, those are the people you're going to kind of get along with later, as opposed to who your DNA that you share or whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
we're getting right into the topics of race here, but
it's very true. So I did that, and then I did Amy's movie this summer with Judd Apatow. I did
Trainwreck?
Yeah, Trainwreck, which will next summer.
Excellent.
And it was great. It did a scene with Keith Robinson. And so we play a couple because we used to date. So people still put us together in all of their, like, if they ever
You're like, it's like you're, what's it called when a character can't get away from one type of character?
Annoying?
That could be. So now every movie you're in, you're going to be going out with this guy, Keith.
Oh, it's our dynamic because we fight so much. And
that's why you're not going out anymore.
Yes. And people enjoy it. We have that thing that people, just man and woman fighting thing that people love to watch. And so we are always put together in something.
So Judd Apatow, he probably didn't even have to, like, direct you in it. He's like, okay, you guys just go at it.
Yeah. We didn't have...
Because he's a very hands-off director.
Yeah, it was very easy. He was laughing because he's like, it's like true. It's like, no, we were actually fighting in it, but it's like we've been in that situation where we've been a couple and we've been in fights with other people too. So we didn't have to go far for the characterization at all.
And did Judd like the scene?
Yeah, it was great. At the rap party, our scene is actually shown. You know how they put the clips, their favorite clips together. So ours was actually shown at the party.
Oh, that's good. So now you know also it won't be on the cutting room floor. Like, you know this will be in the movie.
I hope. Or maybe he's just trying to make me feel good.
I can't wait to see that movie because he's my favorite director. And now that I know you're in it and Amy's in it, it's all good.
Yeah, I'm the sweetest person in the world. Just like kindest person, funniest person you talk to about just about anything. Just really.
Well, you look at like Freaks and Geeks is one of the best TV shows ever. And then Superbad is probably the best movie ever until Trainwreck. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I've just been doing that. And I'm doing my own little podcast.
Friends Like Us, right?
Friends Like Us, yes. Featuring women of color with very different views on hot topics. Do you like my little tag there?
I do. I like that.
I rolled it off.
Women of color.
Yeah.
So hot topics.
So like,
hitting every button.
Rachel could be a part. Rachel actually like came to our podcast after we were working out and we were at the Comedy Cellar like recording and she was like, "Oh, can I?" I was like, "No, it's women of color." She got really sad.
I have a color.
It's like, so I had to call her the next day and I said, "Rachel, you are a woman of color."
Yeah. You had to make it up to her.
Yes, I did.
But you didn't let her in the podcast?
Well, yes, I will eventually, but I have to have
a
strong color for a while.
Uh-huh.
And then we will let her in next week.
Then you can go lighter shades.
Yes.
So, because white's a color.
That is true. That is true.
So, and then you do a lot of touring, and you were just telling me you emceed at the Comedy Cellar last night. Who performed?
Well, last night we had Aziz Ansari was the first comedian, so the audience just went nuts because it wasn't announced. You know, he shows up, so they were getting a really good show, and then right after that is Louis C.K.
I can't believe that. So again, like, why aren't 10,000 people just showing up at the Comedy Cellar every night hoping to see all of these great comedians?
They are. It does feel that way.
Yeah?
Yeah, that place they are killing it.
And
people
like,
are lining up.
Did Louis C.K. try out new material? Like, do one of his jokes.
He always does. Oh, I was upstairs nursing my sinus infection.
But you were emceeing between each.
Yes, I was.
Emceeing's hard because you have to be kind of the stand-up all night. Like you have to do your act like between every other act.
Yeah, not something I prefer to do, by the way. I am putting it out there. I don't like to be the master of ceremony.
But you're good at riffing with the audience, so you could kind of go on the fly pretty well as doing your act.
I am, and then I'm not. Like, it's funny because Jim Norton actually told me this early on when I first started, when I used to host at the Cellar years ago, and I kind of stopped and now I'm doing it again. But I was actually not good at talking to people, like, and really paying attention to everything they had to say.
Like people in the audience?
Yes. And Jim, and I was still young enough that I wasn't aware of my own, like, sort of, I guess, awkwardness or awfulness. But Jim thought it was hilarious. And so he absolutely pointed it out. He was like, "Oh my God, I love it." I was like, "What did I do?" He goes, "You absolutely don't care what they have to say."
What does the audience have to say?
Well, I would ask because I thought I had to. You know, you have this idea of what you're supposed to do as a host. So you go, "Hey, where are you from?" And they would say, "Kansas." And I go, "Okay."
Oh, yeah. In the middle of the country.
Yeah. And then I'd start walking away from them and going to someone else. And Jim just loved it. It was so awkward. It was so awful. And he had this great... That's what I love about Jim, is those moments that no one else sort of gets as being like your pain or that just awfulness. Jim shines a light on it. And it brings him joy.
Well, he said something very interesting also in my podcast, which is that when you first go on the stage, nobody knows you're nervous. So you kind of have to, like, totally go into this persona and they don't know what you're really feeling like behind the scenes in your head. But if they sense that you're nervous, they'll get you. Like they'll kind of call you on it.
Well, it's true. Maybe for him, like I heard him say that, but I kind of play with the nervous energy. I like to do that. And that comes from like sort of my acting background is like wherever I am in the moment, I don't push past that. If I'm feeling tired, I'll acknowledge that I'm tired on stage the moment I get up there. Because if I don't, if I sort of, and I'll do a sort of a little bump up my energy past like the regular tired. Like I won't be like, but I will sort of let that energy play itself out on stage and see where that takes itself. And that's from an acting background, really.
Well, and I think you could see that in your act. Like you have obviously multiple voices in your act. So you're not just going up there and ranting about a topic. You play characters. Like the one with the baby, you're yelling in her voice. You're like also the scared woman running away. Then you're doing the silent thing.
The scared woman running away, by the way. Just so you know.
Well, but you do it very well.
Yeah.
So, and I think the audience likes a non-hero. So the audience is also scared and vulnerable in their daily lives. So they want to know, oh, here's this person on stage I paid to see, and she's also scared and vulnerable. So I think that people relate to that quite a bit, and that could be part of your way you relate so much to the audience.
Which actually sort of challenged me early on doing like black rooms or urban rooms or whatever, because I would start with that vulnerable place, and in those rooms that can be bad, because a lot of times I would have comedians go, you got to go up there, you got to scream, you got to shout, you got to be like, and I'm like, but I'm just not like that. So can I just start from a real place? What are you talking about? Just go up there. Tell them where you from, And I was like, okay. And then I'd go up there and I'd go, hi, my name is Marina. It means a place where you dock boats. Boo.
Right, they didn't want it.
Yeah.
Because you sound like a white girl.
Yeah. But and I learned eventually how to get them on my side in the way that I want to do it.
Okay, how did you do that?
Well, I started coming from a place that they could relate to. Look, they, like I'm not they. That's so crazy when I'm black and I go they. But like I had at the time, I was doing these shows in Brooklyn. So I had a Haitian boyfriend and I would just start talking about him. And in Brooklyn, there's a lot of Haitians. And doing that accent connected immediately with the audience. So yes. So yeah, that like brought them right in. And eventually I was able to work myself back to doing my name joke early on because I had developed a confidence now with the audience. And now I was like, okay, I know I'm going to get them. So now I'm confident I could do this.
That's interesting. So first you went on like common ground with them, with those people.
Yeah, with those people.
Yeah.
My people.
Yeah. And then once you felt like you drew them in, then you could do whatever you want. So
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, because I did Showtime at the Apollo, and I early on with the manager that I had at the time said I was the only client, and he had Patrice O'Neal and he had, I forget who else, I think Donnell Rawlings, and he said I was the only one that didn't bomb because Patrice was great because Patrice at that time really was like not trying. He would just do what he does, and they were getting angry, But since I had so much practice coming from that, I would start on stage at the Apollo. You have that little amount of time to get the audience. And I was not auditioning. I was the comedian to perform, but they would still boo that comedian. So I had...
That's brutal.
It was brutal. And I remember my boyfriend was sitting in the audience and he goes, I felt these guys, they were about to. They were like, ooh. They were winding up. He goes, but you started doing that Haitian joke and you had them. And
that's great.
From that moment on, it's like, it was great.
Well, I think there is some kind of study where you essentially need 9 seconds to win over the audience. And after that, you've either won them over or not. Like, it's very hard.
Well, yeah, I guess there is math involved. Yeah, 9 seconds.
I'm bringing it right down to the science.
Wow, 9 seconds.
I should have worn my lab coat
I'm
here.
gonna start timing myself.
And then another thing is, and this is a lot of studies done in this. At 10 minutes, you need some sort of emotional pivot or peak or whatever, or they totally get turned off. They go to sleep.
Really?
Yeah. So you almost need like a different speaker at the 10-minute
really
point.
Science to this that I'm not aware of.
What book did I read that in? Do you know what book I read that in? Power Cues by Nick Morgan. So read Power Cues or Brain Rules by John Medina. I'm giving you all this homework.
No, I feel like it's just instinct. I feel like, you know what, it's either, for me, I think it's an innate thing. It's like rhythm, right? Because I am a good dancer. So I think that you have a rhythm with the audience. And that's another thing you either have or you can you dance?
I can't dance. You know what, though? I can break dance. I swear to God, when I was a little kid, tiny little kid, I was the vanilla popper. That was my nom de plume. So that's what that was my...
The vanilla popper?
Yeah, that was my thing.
And what was your move?
All the stuff above the ground. So I wasn't really good at like windmills or anything like that, but anything like above the ground I could do.
So you do a good like
yeah, all that. I'm not going to do it here for you now, but yes, all that stuff I could do.
Oh, that's cute.
And I still do it to this day every day.
We all do our dance moves.
Yes.
Still, that's what happens to us when we get older. They're still doing the move they did like in 8th grade.
That's how we stay young.
Roger Rabbit.
That's how you stay young. You have to run up the stairs 2 steps at a time, and you have to break dance.
Oh God.
Or whatever kind of dance. What kind of dance did you do?
Electric Boogaloo.
Yeah, well, the movie Breakin', it's the first time I saw Ice-T. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Jesus. Ain't no stopping us. No stopping.
That's it.
That's
so you're singing, you're an actor, actress, dancer, writer, comedian.
Do it all.
How did you go to school for it, or you just did?
I did eventually. I mean, you know, it was one of those things where when I went to school, it was my father was, even though he was very aware that I was this artistic person that wanted to perform, he still was like, going to college, you're going to go get a degree in something like serious.
Well, that's because, let's just be clear, he was a teacher also,
yes,
right? I did a little bit of my homework here.
You did?
So
I'm like blown away.
Your mother, scandalously, was his student.
Yes.
In high school.
Yes.
So just how did that happen? Like, did he start going out with his high school student?
I was not even a thought yet.
Okay, but you had to have asked at some point. Was she his student in high school?
I think she was.
And then he got fired.
I don't know if she was his student. I have to ask her that. I know that she saw him, she liked him, and she told me that she walked past him in a certain way. She told me that she actually had it in her mind that he's going to look at me when I walk by. And she said it worked.
I see. That look turned into you.
Yeah, it turned into me.
And so how long were they married?
Well, for 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Long time.
And then until I was 8. So, yeah. So that's basically.
So he wanted you to get a degree.
Yeah,
because he was a teacher.
And this is, he was a science teacher, actually. And he was very serious about, like, I'm not going to pay for you to go to college to be a theater major. So I went to University of Illinois, and I did still do a lot of theater. Like, I didn't really, you can't really minor in theater at University of Illinois, but I took as many intro to acting classes. I got to know my teacher there. She referred me eventually to Syracuse.
Oh, really?
So I went there to get my MFA.
MFA in what?
Which my dad let go. And he was like, she's going to do what she wants to do.
Because Syracuse, I would say, has probably the second best MFA program for writing. You know, because you got guys like Raymond Carver, Tobias Wolff, like all these great writers come from Syracuse.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, now I'm teaching you about your own school.
Their MFA acting program actually was awful. It was like, but their undergraduate acting program was amazing. So that's where like Vera Farmiga comes from, and Taye Diggs comes from there. Vanessa Williams comes from there. And so what happened is very like Arthur Storch is part of the method acting, the original actor's studio. So that's why she told me go, even though she said the graduate program is somewhat new and experimental. You will still get that training.
So wait, you went undergraduate at University of Illinois, got the degree, and then went to graduate school in Syracuse?
Yes.
You're like really well educated.
Why are you so surprised?
Because I have done a million podcasts and books saying people should not go to college anymore because it's a total waste of time.
I have seen that, yeah. And you're right.
There you go. Okay, thank you for at least agreeing with me.
Because I can't really think of much that I retained except for the theater stuff was good. Like that was actual.
But if you had been
training is really, yeah, it's necessary.
But if you had let's say you had just moved straight to New York City and started auditioning for like Broadway, off Broadway, taking a little acting class on the side, you don't think that would have been as good?
No, I personally don't. I think that's a different one. Unless it was a really good, so you have to know about good programs. There's so many actors out there, and there's so many people who claim to know how to teach theater. By the way, and if you have someone who's coming from what's called the actor studio, with like where Marlon Brando went to and Al Pacino went to, like these are the best actors. These are the best actresses. This is the real this is the craft of acting. Like, that is something you do have to sort of get behind and learn. And if you have that chance to work with those people, you should do that. So
I'm never going to have that chance, but...
I mean, I'm not saying to you specifically, but to anyone who's listening to this, is like...
Both my daughters are little actors, so maybe they will take this advice.
Just do the research and make sure it's a good school. Like, NYU acting program is, hands down, Yale School of all of the best. The girl who was just in 12 Years a Slave came from Yale. All of the best actresses come from there. And there's a reason for that. You know, and that's definitely training.
So you didn't move your career, though, towards acting. Like, did you ever go out to Hollywood and try to do, like, a pilot or a sitcom or anything like that?
You know what it is like, I'm talking all this nonsense, and then it really did.
You're not talking nonsense at all.
It really didn't do anything with that training, did I?
But you did, though, because, like, your comedy is filled with acting, like more so than a lot of comedians. Like I feel like Louis C.K. does a lot of acting in his comedy. Like he'll do multiple voices and have conversations with himself on stage and so on. And you do that as well. I don't know that many comedians that do it. Amy Schumer does it a little bit. I think she's a very good actress. But not that many comedians, you know, shift their voices all over the place.
Right, that is true.
And it's very funny to do that. I think the audience is almost trained. Like if someone gives a different voice, the audience laughs. And you think about it, what's the most popular form of entertainment is music, and that's all voice work. So, you know, comedy with voices is maybe then one step removed from that, and it's, you know, the audience just laughs at that.
That's true, yeah. Because I do, yeah, I guess, yeah. See, the thing with the acting is it was annoying to not act when I moved to New York, you know, because you have to audition. So
and you didn't like auditioning.
All that training, all that stuff I knew, but I wasn't getting a part. I wasn't on stage. And even even in high school, like I was saying, I always found a way to perform. So I had to be on the stage. So, and I was also, at that time, being very funny with people, like my roommate. And even in Syracuse, someone told me I had done like a routine and I wasn't aware of it. So it was sort of in the back of my mind, stand up, stand up, stand up. If this acting thing doesn't work out, just be the funny old lady at the bar.
And somehow that will work out financially.
Yeah, and I said, you know, so that first year of being in New York was sort of frustrating, looking at backstage and trying to figure it out. And I was just not used to being on stage. I always was self-creating. So I was like, I have to do this stand-up. I have to try it and I would go to open mics and I was like, I'm on stage. And I was like, I love this. I'm on stage.
Were you nervous the first time you did the open mic? Did you write a lot of material beforehand?
I did. I took a class.
On comedy writing?
Yeah, I took, there I see, I'm anti-you.
Right?
I took another class.
You took a class?
No,
taking a class is okay. Getting a degree, I don't like the expense of the degree.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Oh, God, no. But yeah, I did take a class, and a lot of comedians do get on me about, you took a class to do comedy? But I came from that school of thought with theater, which I didn't know does not really apply, by the way, to stand-up. It's very different. But I did take that time in that class to write out material, and that sort of got me going. That gave me the sort of push to get on stage.
What was the first joke you did on stage?
It was my name.
Oh, okay.
It's still my name. It's Marina, a place where you dock boats. I used to do, because it introduces me so well, and it's just like saying my name. That's all it is.
It's interesting because a lot of comedians start off with their background, almost as if they're setting up their whole kind of, this is how you should cast me in a sitcom. I'm this, and then they make that funny. But you did it with your name, and then you had some good follow-ups from that. You say, take from that what you will, as a place where you dock boats.
That's a new part. That's
okay.
Years later when I became a woman, and I made that joke a little more sexual. But in the beginning, it was just about the name, and it was just, I would just talk about growing up in Chicago. I started off, because I had a guy, his name was Lee Frank, and he was actually very good at getting me, because he knew that whole dynamic of me growing up at Highland Park and then moving to the south side of Chicago, and he said, just talk about it. And so I was talking about, I went from a black neighborhood to a white neighborhood, so I'm kind of bilingual, and I could do black, I could do white. And
you said, I think, and it was too late for me. I was white.
Yeah. And I used to have a joke where I would say my mom tried to give me an afro, but she had shaped it into the continent of Africa. So it didn't work.
Or another one, you said you had a feathered afro. You were the only person in school.
That was on a podcast. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I used to say the continent of Africa, and it was so bad. The joke was so contrived. And I said there was a part in it that looked like the Nile.
Huh. There you go.
So see, and so that was my early stage of really trying to, I don't know what I was doing. I remember some guy telling me, he's like, well, that Africa joke about your hair, it could work, but I don't really see how black people would really relate to that. Did you sit down and did you write that out?
So they were against the fact that you wrote material.
It was too contrived. It was too, it wasn't really, I wasn't conversational at the time, even though it's funny, the image of this little girl with the continent of Africa. It's funny, but it was just... But
it's interesting. So part of the act is being conversational with the audience.
For me, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because not every comedian's like that. Take a guy who's a one-liner guy. He's mostly just telling his lines.
Yeah, those are joke writers.
Yeah.
Joke right. I like to have a relationship with the audience and really have them know where I come from and where I'm at in the moment and have it be an experience. And so it's not so jokey. It's more storytelling. And
it's funny because that does apply very much to what public speakers should do. You shouldn't just kind of talk your theory or your science or your PowerPoint or whatever. People should still build that engagement with the audience, but most people don't. Comedians do. This is why I love relating comedy with every other aspect of life, because this is really what people should do, is engage with the people you're communicating with. And people forget to do that. Yeah. I think if you look at things like Daniel Tosh's show, where he has YouTube videos and he makes fun of them, and then you compare that with his stand-up act, the stand-up act is funnier because he's not distracting people with the YouTube videos. He's directly engaging with an audience.
Right, yeah, there's that connection. And that's important. Not everyone can, again, there are comedians who are really good writers, but for me anyway, when I walk away, I didn't get anything from it except for a good joke. I was like, that was a good joke. But I wouldn't want to really hang out with him.
But the best comedians, though, even the ones who are just like joke tellers, you could still see they're bonding with the audience. So, like, take
The good ones.
Yes, the good ones. Like, take a guy like Anthony Jeselnik. So he is telling these outrageous jokes that could infuriate any audience, but he makes sure he's like in there with the audience, like they're on his side. Or Louis C.K. in his last big special where he does the "but maybe" segment, he's totally saying this outrageous stuff, but he basically says, he warns the audience, you're all in this with me now. Because
he's really telling a story to you. I mean, he's really taken us on a journey, you know? Like those that just sort of like, they do the jokes and then they're done. It's like, we could tell. And the audience could tell too. You could sometimes, and I'm talking about the ones that aren't that good, by the way. You know, the ones who you just kind of go, okay. So
kind of the secret is building this glue from beginning to end. Like you sort of have that. I mean, you definitely have that with the glue is you were white and then turned black somehow. So, or vice versa. Like you're the bilingual aspect. That kind of is this theme that runs through your act, basically.
And I'm starting to lose some of it, but not really. I mean, it's like, now it's just the theme has been dating young guys for some reason. Because it's like, it's where I come from. It's whatever I'm going through and whatever, dating young white guys, I should say. So I guess, yes,
again, dealing with race.
Yeah, it's still there.
You know, and race has even come up a lot in this conversation. Like I said to you earlier, you went to University of Illinois and then you got a graduate degree at Syracuse. And I said, you're really well educated. And you said to me, why are you asking me that?
Yeah, but that wasn't a racial thing.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Now you're making it racial.
Now, okay, maybe
That's my black voice.
Yeah.
You about to bring out Shaniqua.
Maybe I interpreted it as a racial thing.
There's a joke amongst comics. Keith Robinson says this. There's two Marinas.
Your ex-boyfriend?
Yes, definitely. There's Pam. And then there's actually Monifa. So Pam is like, this is Pam right now, right? Hi.
White voice.
Yeah, and then Monifa's like, go around. And I don't really, and that has to be in the moment. I can't do Monifa unless I am in the moment. So like if I'm in a movie theater, like this did happen to us. We were in a movie theater and it was a foreign film. And this girl wanted to like get in the seat, I guess. And I was like, really annoyed that she wanted me to move. So I said, no, go around. And
that's still a little Pam.
That is still a little Pam because I'm not in the moment. But that was very like, I remember him going, who is that? And then, but at the Magic Johnson Theater, this woman wanted to get in the scene and then Pam just was quiet.
Then it was all Monifa.
No, Pam, Monifa surrounded me.
Oh, I see. So you couldn't,
so
you can't compete with.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I was just like, given the situation, Monifa shows up, you know, or so.
But you use both in the act.
Well, I will say this. Sometimes I've lost confidence in Monifa.
Why? Why do you think?
Because every time I go into sort of my black voice or what I am confidently think is my black voice, I have been ridiculed.
Okay, but part of what makes you funny in the act is the fact that you're ridiculed for that. So that's when you make fun of yourself for trying to talk black.
Yeah.
And you make fun of yourself for trying to talk white too. Yeah. So you're confused all around, and you share that with the audience.
I'm too old to be confused.
No, you're not. But that's
my therapist is on break.
Yeah, no, that's why you're here. We're having a therapy session right now.
Why did they leave in August? Why?
I don't know. Mine, my wife's, they're all on break right now.
I don't know why they do it at the same time. It's not right.
They have a convention. Like they all go to like the Caribbean and exchange drugs and stuff like that. So they get ready for us when they're back. But it seems like the audience is going to like that because the audience is confused. It's not like just you being confused and you see a therapist. The audience, they're mentally in every direction. So they want to know that, again, if you were just like the best person in the world, the audience is not going to be as attracted. So it's the fact that you're this non-hero, the fact that you don't know whether you have this black identity or white identity or what your identity is supposed to be or what your identity is supposed to be for this audience, they like that, I would think.
I like the way you put that.
Yeah, see, I'm your therapy session this month.
Helping. I feel really good with you right now. Thank you.
Good. I hope you can translate this into your act, maybe.
Yeah, well, it is true, because I do find, like, if I have... Oh, God. Sorry, my phone. That's the boy.
Yeah, you could pick up your phone. We could record this listening to you.
I don't know who this is, actually. I fought with the boy. I call him the boy.
What did you fight about?
It's never ending. He's young.
So what's the problem with when there's a young boy? I've never dated a young boy.
Oh, thank God.
Because I go for girls.
I don't ever see that. You know what it is? Oh, God. I don't even know where to begin. It's just...
It's funny, though. Your mom went for a guy so much older.
Older, yeah.
So this is a little bit of rebellion in you.
Well, I'm a lot like my dad. In that I date young.
Okay, there you go.
I really don't mean to date young. I say this on stage. I just aged well, and they do come at me. They don't know how old I am, so they see me, and they think I'm like... And I mean, as my boyfriend says, he says, I'm very immature. And it's probably true, but on some level. But he is at that age where you have to explain everything or you just watch them go through it. So it's like I have a child. Like that moment where you could explain everything to them, but you're like, no, just go ahead and figure it out on your own. So I'm a little exhausted by that.
So he wants to talk everything out every day.
Oh my God, he's from this, I think it's called the millennials. Is that what it is? They want to know every emotion, everything. They want it broken down. And he wants to stop every moment and go, exactly why is that?
Does he get insecure?
Oh.
So because you're out there like on the road, does he ever get like nervous?
He's a comedian too.
Okay, so he knows the drill.
You would think.
Is he a good comedian? Do you like his comedy?
He's a good comedian. And he comes from a real honest place, which I like. I love that about him. It's just, I would say, the moment we had last night, and I don't mind sharing this, is that he is sort of new to the scene. He's not in the club. And so there's some boundaries that I have with him that he's sort of crossing. Where it was like, let's say I'm hosting and he takes the water that I get for free because I'm hosting and he takes the water. And I'm like, that's my water. And I'm at work. So.
Does he ever host? Do you ever you could take his water next time?
Yeah, I guess. He does a show in the Hamptons, actually, and he runs it. It's really nice at the Bay Street Theater. I think that's, yeah. And, I'll go there. I'll go all the way out there and take all of the water.
So you're dutiful. You're Now, how long did it take you before you realized, oh, I'm a stand-up, this is what I am. I'm a stand-up comic, and whatever that leads to?
It does take a while because I think, and I hate to bring this element in, and I appreciate the fact that you never even mentioned it, but I'm going to bring it in, and then it's going to go right out, right?
Yes, I am white.
No! I, as a female comic, right, this is all I'm going to say, is it does take a while to realize that, because you are sort of like told that women aren't funny. I really didn't know that women weren't funny until I started doing comedy. And then I was like, oh, we're not funny? I didn't know that. Everyone always told me I was funny. So I'm just being funny. And then you sort of like realize that this is a perception that people have. Like the audience would sometimes come up to me after the show and go, you're really funny. Women don't make me laugh. And I didn't know that perception was out there.
Well, do women make you laugh?
Yes.
So
and that's why I didn't know that perception was out there. So that's why it took me a while to figure out, like, I knew I was funny, but it took me a while to sort of have that stamp of like, yes, she is absolutely funny. Like there was no one could take that away from me.
So again, how many years before this was like, okay, I got over that hump where people now think I'm funny, and now I can start really pressing on this as a career?
I would say probably 11.
11 years.
Yeah.
Of working at it.
Really, well, of really sort of being completely like, yes.
And what were you like? How were you making a living during those 11 years?
I worked. I did. I had an office job. I had worked at a consulting firm. I got laid off, and then then you really commit to.
Then you have to be really funny.
Then you don't really have a choice.
Funny or die.
Yeah. But yeah, and I worked at a restaurant. I worked at Jekyll and Hyde. I worked at a theme restaurant for a while. But no, I mean, like, okay, let me rephrase this because I think I'm getting off. Is like, at the point, I would say 8 years, really, when the job was gone, okay, and really committed to it and getting work.
So you were getting work on the road, like you had a manager booking your...
I had a manager actually in the first year of doing comedy.
And would he be able to book gigs, or was it slow?
No, he wasn't even around. I had a manager, but he didn't return my call.
So that's not good. You can't make a living off of the manager that doesn't return your calls.
Yeah, so the first year it was good to know that somebody thought I was funny.
Yeah, you know. It's nice. We all feel psychologically it's nice when someone chooses us. When someone who claims to be an authority figure says you're good.
Yeah.
So, and I think it takes a while to know that I'm good without that authority figure. Yes. Then you could start choosing the people you trust, like the managers, the agents, the clubs, and so on.
But I think what really happens, even when you have certain amount of success, when things are like concrete that you're doing it, you still don't know if you're good.
But I wonder if that's universal. And so again, sticking to comedy, because I can hit this in every area. But like when I was talking to Jim, he seemed nervous about whether he was successful or not. And I'm like, Jim, you've done X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3. How could you possibly be thinking you're not anything but like, a success? And I think there is always that feeling.
Because we're always trying to do more. And you can, as a comedian, you're always wanting to get back on. So you don't want people to just sort of flatline with you at some point and just go, you're good. Because
then there's the fear they might forget you too. Like, oh yeah, that was her act. I remember it. It was funny. It was 6 years ago. Oh, is she still around?
Yeah, you can't. You don't want to, as an artist, you never want to just stay where you are. You want to grow. You want to get better. And so the sign that you're growing and you're getting better is you're getting more things and you're doing more things. And there is a point in your career where things aren't really being offered, or things aren't really sort of thrown at you. And you sort of hit like even a writing flat line. And so you acknowledge that. And if you're smart, you're aware of it, and then you go, I got to get better, and I got to keep doing this, and I got to keep moving. And so, yeah, you do reach a point where, yeah, you're like, am I good still? So that never stops.
And how do you keep getting better?
Well, that's what makes the difference between a really good comedian and someone that was good. But you keep writing.
Like Louis C.K. says, for instance, he follows the George Carlin model. He rewrites his act every year. Do you feel your need to do that?
Yeah, you got to keep writing. You got to keep writing. And there's a point where you're stuck. I'm a little stuck right now. I'm at a point where, like, I could still, like we were just talking about, I could still talk about the racial dynamic of how I grew up. But I'm also at a point where I'm dealing with some other issues, being an older woman that doesn't look older. And
wait, you actually look really young.
You're looking at me. Your eyes are blinking. You're like, what is she talking about?
I have to ask that, and you don't have to answer. But how old are you?
Answer.
You're not going to answer. Okay, that's fair enough.
Marina, what is wrong?
Okay, how old do you think she is, Claudia?
Oh my God, you don't do that either, right, Marina?
No.
She just called you crazy? She said, he is crazy.
No, but she knows I call her out on her age. So how old do you think she is?
I'm not going to guess, but I'm going to put her in her 30s.
Thank
you.
Oh,
you just got a big fan.
That was the clearest thank you. That was the clearest sound that came through the speaker.
Yes, that was really loud. She was like screaming it.
And it was
Thank
very
you.
without an accent. Thank you.
I'm gonna call her out. Can I call you out? She's 46 years old.
She's beautiful.
And she's younger than me.
And that's young.
Yeah, that's young.
That's how you know I'm not young, is because I said that.
You look 25 or below.
Yeah. Marina, don't say you're older.
I love her.
So do I.
I want her to be my best friend.
It's funny. One time somebody wrote an article about me where they were like very upset that I took my 12-year-old to a fashion show and we didn't have tickets, but somehow we got in. And this girl wrote a post saying, I only got into this fashion show because I was white. She had some issue. Mm-hmm. And I said to a friend of mine who gave me this advice that I should have written back an article saying, I'm deeply offended being married to a woman of color, which would have been sort of a joke because Claudia is obviously not a woman of color, but she's from Argentina. So, but I never did that. The best policy is to ignore the haters.
Yeah, you gotta ignore the haters. Hate is so bad. But yeah, race is like one of those things I've been trying to get away from it, actually.
Well, you have to, because if you're going to do it too much, people are just going to think of you in that way.
Yeah, and I've had that on stage.
But now you have the younger boyfriends thing.
Yeah.
So but that's hard too, because you have to also
put some pedophile for 15 minutes.
And also you have to put some distance between the event and the writing, I would imagine, or maybe not.
Yeah, the audience is asking for a breath. I talk about my young boyfriend.
Right, like he's right there. He's in the audience.
They're like, can you take a break from talking about your young boyfriend and tell us about how you couldn't open your door today, please? So yeah, there's that. It's a moment where, and I think I told you this, I'm working on a pilot.
Right.
So that has sort of also taken me off from the stand-up sort of, because but not really, but it's like really delving into a different style of writing. For 10 weeks I've been doing that.
Well, that's interesting, because you have to do, and again, I think this applies to any profession, but people forget this. You have to do many things to do one thing. So to be good at comedy, it's not like you're just going to be a good stand-up comic and nothing else. You have to be a writer, you have to be an actor, you have to be almost the audience's therapist at the time. So tell me about your pilot. What's that about?
Well, I'm not going to tell you too much because I'm
going to steal the idea.
Pilot. It's spec really. But I will tell you that the process of writing has been incredible. It's my life, but it's like sitting down, and I definitely put on the weight, but sitting down and writing, developing relationships, the story is so much fun, and bringing it all to life in the script. I didn't realize I was actually good at it. I'm good at it, and I love it because I've always done that. I've always had these stories in my mind. My life has always been interesting to me. I know I'm very patting myself on the shoulder while I say this, but I absolutely love...
Well, audiences have agreed with you, so you're allowed to say that.
And it's just nice to write it down. It's nice to write it down in a more connected way where I don't have, like, what did you say, 9 seconds to have him connect with me. I actually can build, like, a story. I can have a beginning, a middle, an end. I have relationships. I have a father in the story. I have friends in the story. I have a boyfriend in the story. I have the boyfriend's mother in the story. So all of those things are starting to really develop, and trusting my instincts with writing has been, like, challenging. And it's freeing. It's like, it's almost, it is therapeutic. I almost fired my therapist during this writing session, actually. It was that freeing.
Because the therapist was not so good at the time, or because you felt like you just didn't need him or her anymore?
When you're getting it out, like when you're actually getting it out. Because like I said, in high school, I wrote a lot of poetry. I haven't really written like, doing comedy. I just do I don't write my poetry. So getting it out in a written form is like that, in that depth, like 30 pages is heavy, and it's very freeing. It's like you're getting all of those thoughts, those subconscious thoughts are starting to come out on page, all of those feelings that you sort of like kind of hid away, you sort of bring out.
It's interesting because with something like a sitcom, you can't kind of really delve into kind of the subtleties of, let's say, novel writing or short story writing. Did you consider doing it that way?
What, novel writing?
Yeah, like some kind of other type of writing other than, with a sitcom, it's mostly dialogue,
Right,
as opposed to kind of like what everybody's thinking and feeling. And
yeah, and I don't think I don't write in the style of like sitcom, like, like ABC, like, like laughter in the can type sitcom. I don't write like that. So it's a little, it's more like you were saying, like novel, right? Like, and I have considered writing a book. I did write a one-woman show, actually, a couple of years ago, but I didn't really finish it. It's in the closet.
have you tried performing it?
I did perform it. I performed it a whole weekend, actually, at the comic strip. I did, but I got mad at my director, and then that was a moment.
How did you get mad at your director?
Well, because he was trying to write it, and the way I write, I come from a lot of truth. So I didn't understand why he was trying to change my truth for me. So
were you sort of like playing more on the fact that you had developed this rapport with the audience, and he was trying to just make you one-liners, or was there some conflict there?
I think what it was he was trying too hard to be right and to be a director, in the label of being a director. And just, it's scary when you're trying to direct someone and tell them how to, because you could either choose to make it a relationship, or you could choose to be the person that's telling you what to do.
Why did you need a director? Why couldn't you just say, hold a camera here, I'm going on stage there, do what I tell you to do?
Because it was a different style. It was something new. And I needed feedback while I was rehearsing it. Because I needed to get it up on its feet. And having someone there was helping me to do that. Having someone to give me like immediate feedback. But he was starting to give feedback that was changing the actual story.
Why didn't you get feedback from your many comedian friends?
I did eventually. And then when they came to the show, they all said, we don't like him.
Okay. So that was a strong sign.
That was like the best feedback I could have gotten from this show. They were like, trust your instincts. That's what I got from that. And so I did put that away. I may bring that back out. But, and it was really, really good, but the trusting the instincts part of writing has been like the best part. And that's what I'm about to go through for another 6 weeks, actually. I'm going to go back to my script, my pilot that I'm working on, and change some things and go back to what I kind of knew was always good about it and really flesh it out. And I'm just excited about that.
And do you have anybody waiting for the script? Like, is there a network, or is there...
Yes.
Yeah? Mm-hmm. Can you tell us what network?
No.
I'm going to guess. If I guess, you don't have to say yes or no, but like FXX?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. Comedy Central?
That sounds nice, though.
FXX does sound nice, right?
Yeah.
The League, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Louie. All good shows. So, what's your favorite sitcom right now on TV?
I'm shaking my head for the audience to know.
I can't get anything out of you.
And I'm just shaking my head because I don't have the visual.
let me veer off. A lot of people say they want to be stand-up comics. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people just want to go up there and be funny and be instant stand-up comics. And you're saying it took you 11 years before you were like really kind of almost comfortable on that stage calling yourself that. So why do you think so many people, A, think they can just go up there and do it, and B, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think they can do it because their friends tell them they're funny and that they can do it. A lot of people know they're funny, and they say, "Hey, you're funny. Do it." What was the second part?
What advice would you give them?
Don't
do it. But I sort of feel like everybody...
Don't do it.
I sort of feel like everybody says that about every profession. Like, oh, you want to be a writer? Don't do it. You want to be an actor? Don't do it. You want to be an entrepreneur? Don't do it. Like, to be good at anything is really hard and brutal. Like, how many times, and try to actually come up with a number, how many times have you been rejected from something you wanted to do in comedy?
A lot.
Deep pause.
Well, because I love that you with the numbers. God, I love you. Are you a mathematician?
No, but I did major in computer science in college.
God. You and numbers. I used to love math, by the way. But I would say, that's a heavy one. Because there's denial in that number.
It's, I will say for me,
think.
Like I've done a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. So let's say I've started about 20 businesses, and probably 17 of them were complete failures, like just bombs. And when you fail as an entrepreneur, you let everyone down. Like, it's horrible.
That's hard. Yeah,
but okay, you move on, and persistence, I always sort of feel love plus persistence gets you eventual abundance. And I think the same thing happens in any profession. Like, look, how did you persist for 11 years in comedy when you didn't feel yet like you were full-fledged, this is your title, stand-up comic?
I guess the reason I can't really come up with a number is because there was nothing definitively bad. Like, there was nothing that said that it wasn't going well. So if I was to really think of, like, the sets bombing, right, does not mean that there was a lot of bombing. So that if we went into the number of times I bombed when I started and into today, that number is up there.
But that's interesting though, because a lot of people would say, I think, and there's studies on this. Two people are in the trenches in a war, and one goes off after the war and becomes a successful person, whatever. The other person goes home and kills himself. So, and they do lots of studies on these pairs, like what constitutes failure and how do people deal with failure. So a bomb, I'm going to define it in a different way. You failed for that audience, but you don't even call it that. Like, you call it you're bombing and you go on to the next one. It's persistence.
Well, it's also awareness.
Awareness of what?
Of what you're doing. Like, if you bomb, if you're aware that you're bombing does not mean you're not funny, then you will continue. So you have to have like an understanding and an awareness of what is bad, what is really, really bad. Like sort of like, I heard Jim Norton's podcast, like he's talked at the union address at Montreal about sort of like the business shutting the door and saying no to you. That is a number that is very clear, right? That is something like, let's say when I did Last Comic Standing, and this was years ago, and I didn't go on. That was the first real sort of like, no.
Well, you went there and they said, we don't want you on?
I went there. I went all the way through to the like semifinals. I flew to LA. I was I think like the top 20 or maybe 10 or something like that. But I wasn't voted to go into the house. And that was like a real moment where I was like, someone said no to me. Like and it wasn't like something that I could sort of define or understand, or it was like,
but that's interesting.
I'm going back, and there's nothing I could do about it.
That's like, though, that's an authority figure saying no, as opposed to the audience saying no. So when you bomb, the audience is saying no, and you have enough confidence that you learn from it. It's like let's say you were a tennis player and you lose a game. You're going to go back through your coach is going to have you go back through the video and say, here's what you did wrong. Here's where you could have, I don't know, swung a little harder or whatever. But you're still going to think I'm a good tennis player.
Right. There's that awareness.
But if you lose Wimbledon every single time, you're going to start to feel I'm a bad tennis player or I'm not good enough somehow.
There are some comedians that bomb early on in a way that they have no awareness that the bomb was like, there's no coming back from like, you're just bad. I actually envy those people because they seem very happy.
Because they can move on. or they don't move on and they just stay happy.
They stay, ignorance is bliss. I mean, they're so happy, but they don't realize how awful they are. And they keep going.
But after you bombed, you go back through and think, what did I do wrong? Like, what could I have done better?
Yes, I do. I always
like last time you bombed, what? Oh, so you record. I don't even do anything like that. I should do stuff like that when I speak. But like, last time you bombed, what did you learn from it?
The last time I bombed, let's see, which was
10 years ago.
No, I've bombed recently because I'm working on a lot of new material. So I would say, okay, I can remember now. I was at this club, and I would say I didn't listen to that set, but I felt it. I would say the thing I learned from that was I really didn't try. And I really didn't. It was me in a different place. That's what I knew.
Wait, in the Hamptons?
What? Well, I was grabbing my boyfriend's water?
Yeah, and you started performing?
I was more focused on his water than actually doing well on stage. And that's why I bombed, yes. No, I was focused in on my script, quite honestly. I was thinking about the pilot. I wasn't thinking about the stage, and I neglected the audience. So I knew that was what was going on.
So it wasn't the words, it wasn't the jokes,
no.
It was the audience rapport you fell short.
It was my fault. It was my fault. I really didn't care about connecting that day.
What could you have done to connect?
Known that that's what I was doing, right? And changed my attitude. Because attitude plays into it a lot. So that's all that is like switching, like last night I told you, I said I'm sick. I have a cold, summer cold, because I'm touching all these train poles, right? So last night, right before getting on stage, I could have chosen, and there was a moment, because you're fighting a head cold. There was a moment of going, I don't want to do this. I don't feel like connecting with this audience, like, at all. I just want to get through it. I'm just going to sort of do this set, do the material, and be out. But I said, no, that's not fair. You have a job to do. You need to turn up your energy a little bit and go out there and connect, though. Come from that place of where you're at. Started talking about the head cold, told them I was on a lot of drugs. They're with me. They're having fun. And so that was an attitude adjustment. That's all that was. So that was a win.
Part of that was being really authentic with the audience. So going right out there and saying, I'm sick, but we're going to have fun.
Yeah, but it's always about awareness. Because I remember even coming off stage, Louis came, they each were trying to shake my hand. I said, I'm not going to shake your hand. I'm not going to do it because I'm sick. And Louis thought, as I was going to shake his hand, I remember he's so adorable to me because his eyes was like, what? Like, you don't want to shake my hand? And then I thought I was very clear. I thought I was very verbal about how I was sick, but he didn't hear it because he's thinking about his set. Then when he leaves, he goes to shake my hand again. And I said, no, I'm sick. He goes, oh, I guess you just don't do this. And I was like, I had to tell him off stage. I was like, no, Louis, I'm sick.
It's funny.
I didn't know you were sick. You don't seem sick.
It's funny how he put it, though, because, like, there are things he doesn't do. Like for instance, he won't take photographs with people. No. He'll try to engage them in a conversation, but he won't stand there for a photograph. And so was his set funny?
Oh, his set was funny. But I mean, he kills. He's just but he's so great. But it's just like the fact that, and the point I'm making is the fact that he didn't realize I was sick meant that I was doing my job, and that's all that is. I mean, because I know I can be that person who will let everyone know exactly what I'm going through. I love to complain. I am the queen of complaining.
But, then it's sort of like awareness plus authenticity. Mm-hmm. So, like, you're aware that your energy's low, right? So, because if you had just gone up there and tried to do your thing, maybe it wouldn't have been as good. But you went into the audience totally authentic and said, this is what's happening right now, but we're gonna do this, we're in it together, we're gonna do this together. And I think that sort of, again, applies to everything. Like, that applies to success in general, that touching that awareness with authenticity is important.
Because you will, if you start focusing on that number, like you said, right, you can get very depressed. So I think it's more important to just every moment that happens, have awareness about that moment, do something about it, change your attitude, and just move on and leave it in the past. Because
This is very critical. Can you just, this is the most important thing. Like, it's a critical for success.
I'm very smart. See, I grew up behind
you are. You're highly educated. You're well spoken.
See?
So having that awareness, and really being, and really connecting with it.
Yeah, in the moment. And that will prevent you from looking at it as a failure in the most heaviest way. Now, there is failure that is like very clear and hard to walk away from, obviously, but you can still, even then, if you just take a moment and just think about it and how you're going to move on from that. Just, sometimes you have to just sit with it for a moment, but the next day, how you get up from that is how you succeed.
I feel part of that awareness has to come with experience too, because you have to be actually aware that A, something went wrong, and B, what went wrong. So, then C, how to fix it. Yes. How you're going to get up and move and have experience of getting up and moving and knowing that by getting up and moving, there'll be further successes in the future. So it's living in the moment, but knowing that living in that moment in an aware way will get you success in the future. Having a little faith in that.
Yeah, you have to have a faith. The faith is very, very important. And go for a walk.
Yeah.
Just go for a walk. And it's because it can be hard. I mean, like, I had a moment this year. There was something that I could have done I didn't do, that I was just like, you look at it and you get a little sad about it, and you hear, all these other people are doing it and you're not doing it, and you're thinking, why am I not getting what they're getting? And all you have to do is refocus, maybe go for a walk, run, write a poem, refocus, talk.
Talk to who?
Talk to, the therapist who's on vacation, or...
Get him on the phone. Where's the therapist?
She.
She.
Look at you. Now you're sexist.
I thought you said he earlier. Oh, I'm sorry.
Carol. Or you talk to someone who you've always relied on, who's always had the best advice.
Like fellow comedians?
Yeah, fellow comedians. I always talk to fellow comedians.
Like, who do you talk to?
Mentor. My friend Keith, the one who I fight with.
The ex?
I know, it's a very funny relationship. But we fight, but I do talk to him. He's very good at turning a situation around. He's always been good at that. So
essentially, and it's funny because this relates a lot to things I recommend in completely different categories, but, having some exercise, being, healthy, taking that walk, talking to people who you trust and respect and who are legitimately supportive of you. So even though he's an ex and, he's legitimately supportive of what you want to do and he wants to help. Maybe my guess is part of your process is being creative. So you get back to writing, you get back to what you're doing, and then you have to kind of have some sense of not necessarily faith in a religious sense, but faith that if all these things come together, you're going to be able to move forward.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And having all of that today. So like the day after, let's say, of a bombing or whatever. Not a real terrorist bombing, but
it's a little hard to put all that. Look, you do have to be. If you're sad, it's okay to be sad. You can't look. Failure is not easy to handle. In the moment that it happens, you're sad, and if you fight that, then you aren't aware actually. So you have to sort of be sad about something for that moment and just cry, whatever you scream, hug your cat.
I don't have a cat, but I hug Claudia out there.
Your daughter.
Yes.
That I love. She's my fan.
Oh, yes, she is.
And then...
They were really surprised that you were coming on why is she coming on your podcast? Who are you?
She's so sweet. So that you take that moment, that's an acting thing too. That came from, by the way, theater school. Learning to just be in the moment. It's just so important. And then you just take a deep breath and figure it out. And the way you figure it out is all those things we just said is talk to a friend.
They're all very important.
Awareness. Hug your cat.
Now, I saw on one interview you were taping your conversation with your taxi cab driver. Maybe this was with Todd Barry, the podcast with Todd Barry.
That was with Champs. That's with Neil Brennan.
Oh, okay. And do you carry around a tape recorder and tape things all the time for material?
Oh, for material? Like, you mean like, do I go out on the street and just record situations? No, I just was a little crazy.
So you just decided to like tape. This cab was like so outrageous.
I lost my awareness that day.
Okay.
But yeah, that is something. I have a little bit of one of those women that will I write letters of complaints and I follow up.
It's like you pointing to Claudia.
I spent I think 5 hours on the phone last week about my nasal spray, and that's why I sound like this.
It wasn't working?
No, I want Marina Aqua 32, exactly the brand name.
Did you write that down out there?
And they're trying to give me the generic form, and I don't want the generic form. So I've been debating this whole thing, health insurance. So I will spend hours. I'll record. So the cab driver that day, I think what happened was he didn't have a photograph on his thing, which was very scary to me. Mm-hmm. So I started recording the conversation so I could play it in court later.
I see. You had it all planned out, lawyers, jail, prison, everything.
I go right to the place where I guess black people don't go. I remember in that podcast.
You're like an infuriated Jewish person.
Yes, I am. But I do go to that place. And I was I think in that recording, I said something about I will get the cops on you, which is crazy.
Yeah, and you're enlisting the help of other cab drivers. Do you see this?
Yes.
So
you could hear the insanity in my voice.
No, but it happens. It happens to all of us.
Yeah.
So I wanna do something for you. I wanna plug something. What can we plug? What can we promote here?
Well, I definitely want to promote my podcast. Can I do that?
Yeah, sure.
Is that allowed?
Friends Like Us, great podcast.
It's on iTunes. It's just new. It's starting, so we're developing, and it's finally getting its real legs. It's good. It's
what do you think makes a good podcast?
I think what makes a good podcast is if you're giving something to someone at home. If I'm listening to this, if you're listening to this and you feel like you learned something, you took something away. If you felt like today, listen, see, this is how I grab my audience. Do you see that? Look what I'm doing.
Yeah.
If you felt like today you failed and you didn't know how to step out of it, you just got depressed and you didn't know how to move on, maybe this podcast could help you. Maybe you could go out and get a cat.
There you go.
So that's what makes a good... What else can I plug? I need more Twitter followers.
How many Twitter followers do you have?
Not enough. That's like saying my age.
I'm
kind of embarrassed.
No. Tell me how many Twitter followers. I'm going to give you advice right now.
Okay. I have 4,080 something.
I know. That when did you get on Twitter?
A while ago. Maybe 3 years ago.
But you probably haven't been that active on Twitter. You know what I would recommend is you should do a Q&A on Twitter. So announce to all your Twitter followers and on your Facebook page and stuff, I'm going to do on this date at this time an hour-long Q&A about comedy. You could ask me about comedy. You could ask me about Louis C.K. You could ask me about the upcoming Judd Apatow movie, Amy Schumer. Ask away Monday from 2 to 3. I will answer all of your questions, and I won't stop until I answer all the questions. Then you'll get a lot of new Twitter followers.
Well, that makes me want to hug my cat.
Try that. You'll see. And it's funny because then you can practice being funny in 140 characters because you'll get nonstop questions.
Yeah.
So, and then...
should I change my name? Because it's Marina. This is so your listeners know. It's Marina Y. Franklin.
Was there a Marina Franklin taken?
Yes, some Brazilian. She's Brazilian.
No, Argentinian.
I look at Marina.
No.
Marina gives the thumbs down.
Yeah, because Brazilian is that's Portuguese. So
como vai tudo bem?
Yeah, she's Spanish.
Okay, yeah. So she has it. And someone said that if you don't have your name, people don't want to do the extra work to look you up. You should have your actual name.
But you know what, though? People will type in Marina Franklin, and they'll see Marina Y. Franklin. So
they will?
they'll find you. I wouldn't worry about that.
Okay, I thought that was I was hoping that was the reason.
No, it's not the reason.
Oh, no.
You have to really go out there and engage with them. The other thing you have to do is you should write about comedy on popular sites. And you should say in the middle of the article, please follow me on Twitter, because I also have I'll also answer your questions about comedy on Twitter. And then
I don't know if I could do that.
It's hard to ask, but thousands of people will follow you on Twitter from that. That's how I built up a Twitter following initially.
Wow.
So
I just want them to just like me. Do I have to give them advice all the time?
It helps because they like you more for that.
I figured this would be the way, talking to you.
That will help too. Believe me. Everybody follow Marina at Marina Y. Franklin. Please follow her.
Please follow
and we just set up
me.
your Wikipedia page, so that will help a little bit as well.
And check out, and you can still go to Netflix.
Netflix, that's right. Women
Who Kill. And also, I have to do this one. My friend, one of my closest friends in comedy, Bonnie McFarlane, who's married to Rich Voss, just did a show called Women Aren't Funny. She did it years ago.
Oh, yeah. I saw the trailers the movie's coming out like in a few days, right?
Yes. You could pre-order it now, and it's on iTunes.
Okay, Women Who Aren't Funny. That's the thing to promote, because that's coming out in a couple of days.
Yes, and I'm in that.
So, okay, how much of you are in that?
I don't know.
How many of your personalities are in that?
I haven't seen it, and everyone's told me about it. Everyone said that I'm really good. I'm one of those people, like, sometimes I can't watch myself, but I will watch this.
Oh, really? Like you're one of those. I have been on a ton of things. I've never once watched myself, and it's a real failing. Like I need to be aware. Like I need to sort of examine my faults.
I've forced myself to watch myself at times.
That's a skill.
It's a hard thing to do, but I've heard people have told me that it's very funny. It's good. So that's something that's coming out soon. So check that out.
Okay, good. And so Marina Y. Franklin on Twitter. And Women Who Aren't Funny, or Women Aren't Funny. What's the title of the movie?
I think it's Women Aren't Funny.
By Bonnie McFarlane.
On iTunes.
It'll be on iTunes.
If you can't find it, you can go actually to my Twitter page, Marina Y. Franklin, and you can find it there.
Yes, and we'll link to it when we put up this podcast. When's the movie coming out? We'll put the podcast up around then.
I don't know.
I think
pre-order.
I think I saw August 15th, around there.
Okay. Oh,
so,
look at you.
Yeah, I did my homework on you a little bit, tiny bit. So.
Stalker in the room with me.
Yes. So, well, I really appreciate you coming on. I was really happy that you agreed, and thanks very much.
No, thank you for having me.
And
shake a dang dang.
That's your voice, your Manifa voice.
Shake a dang dang.
For more from James, check out the James Altucher Show on the Stansberry Radio Network at stansberryradio.com and get yourself on the free insiders list today.
Rehearsals for the school play were really coming along.
Bigger smile, Mr. Squirrel?
Until a custodian accidentally threw away the costumes.
Oh, no.
Everyone was rattled. Miss Garrity forgot how to play. And the Queen of the Hedgehogs almost quit.
Find a new queen!
But replacement costumes were shipped with FedEx. And with added peace of mind from picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.